Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Good afternoon, Gary, fellow community, fellow member, and friends. As you know, I will start with saying that inclusive and diversity in leadership is key to sustain global development as the world continues to confront urgent challenges, from the pandemic to climate change, deepening inequality, conflict, and demographic backsliding. So we have seen more and more organizations putting efforts in addressing gender equality, and the World Economic Forum has put why we support women's leadership in the 2023 agenda. So today I have the pleasure to be your moderator and join me with 4 outstanding female leaders. So let me introduce myself to start with. My name is Tong. I have spent the last 20 years in retail, and which eventually turned me into e-commerce. So I've done a lot of digitization for corporation, my own startup, other people's startup. Some of them that we went public, some of them we exited. And so eventually lead me to get into early stage company investment and advisory. So right next to me is Mabel. Mabel is actually one of the most interesting person you probably like to meet today. She is the alternate CE for Ping An Online One Bank. So one of the few online banking in Hong Kong. And next to her is Maki. And Maki is the Deputy General Manager for Mitsubishi. And believe it or not, she is actually a doctor in literature. And but her journey is so diversified given her experience in all different kind of development Mitsubishi has been developing. So we look forward to hearing more from you. And then next to you is Candy Ho is with Bianca Ho. Bianca Ho, and she is the Swire Hotel Director of IT. And as we chat earlier on, you probably would expect people who are in charge of IT will be so focused just on the computer, but no, Bianca will be a great example to show you what else, beyond just being an IT person can bring to you. And then we have Candy. So you won't believe it. Candy is a CSO for Heng Seng indexes. So, with the with banking industry in Hong Kong, we see more and more female leaders. And Heng Seng Bank is one of the banks, if you don't know already. A lot of the leadership are all female. So as a lifelong banker, I think Candy has the opportunity to really take her leadership into something more significant. So without further ado, let us start with what we wanted to talk about today. So I'd like to start with saying, what is your view in gender matter in leadership? Shall I start with? Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think it's very promising, very encouraging that Hong Kong and the rest of the world is encouraging female leaders to take a more proactive and more to lean in more on the leadership side. Just quoting some of the numbers that I was looking into last night. For 2021 Hong Kong census, actually the female population is there's 1,000, every 1,000 female, there's only 901 male for Hong Kong. This is excluding the helpers, the domestic helpers. So that actually shows that female takes up more than half of the population. And it's very important that female opinion and views get represented, not only generally, but also at the senior leadership level. So I think it's very important that we have female leaders in the boardroom, on the C-suite, and generally in the management of any corporates. Should I pass on?
It's the same question.
Yes, would you like to? Especially you work for a Japanese company.
Mabel has indicated about the situation in Hong Kong. But compared with Japan, I think Hong Kong is already living in the paradigms for females to develop their career. So I'm so proud. A few years ago, I see Hong Kong has a CE is a female. I just say, okay, in Hong Kong we have a female CE. the Japanese people look at us, is that trustworthy things? There's this kind of, mentalities or culture that has continued for 100 years, we cannot change. But the things still change maybe a few years ago. And, it's Abenomics, everybody knows about what we're talking about, Abenomics. So trying to boost the economy by, involve those kinds of female power into the leadership, into the workforce, to increase those kinds of contribution from female side. So that's in 2017, I think he has the economy, the boost is like he invented the words like a female, like a womenomics. So women economics. So womenomics is very famous in Japan because it's like encouraging people to go to the workforce for females, not only being the housewife, but being the contributes to the society or something like that. And then the things really, I think it's like, we see, women have no much confidence on that. But when they see the figures, it is still something happened because the females workforce participation to the workplace is increased from 64% in 2012 to 74% in 2019. So that means 10% of increase. It's about females participation in Japan. So now I think the things is continued. But the things is not for, we're not talking about today about a philosophical concept, about equality, about gender bias or something like that. But the thing is to be realistic, that female can contribute a lot. If you want a sustainable growth of the country, of the company, of the community, that is something necessary to do so.
Thank you. That's very good.
From my experience, I've worked in different industries. So, like now in hotel, I've been in telecom, in Arab, in engineering consulting firms, in Alibaba, in banking, but in the domain of data, I'm always been. So I've got used to be a male dominance industry, and in IT, I'm one of those field ladies in IT. But I don't find myself very different because I don't think female and male leadership have a big difference because I treat them equally, but it's more about our capabilities, our abilities, and our mindset. If we don't find ourselves like minorities or disadvantaged from now, I think it helps a lot because from my background, I studied computer science and business management. It's more guys, and I studied law. It's more ladies, and I think it helps a lot with the diverse background. And I do find it very as advantage for female nowadays because we're talking about a lot of inclusiveness, diversity. So there are being more big tech companies. I work in Alibaba. They're being monitored how many percentage of female they're going to hire. So while during interview stage, kind of females having some advantage because they would like to increase their female ratio in the company. So I find it a better and better age or world now for female leaders.
Well, Candy, I wanted to add a twist to you. So I think I want to say, does gender matters? Okay.
In my company,
Well, in your company, in finance, or in overall, we talk about it. It's like in the U.S. people talk about different races, but this world is either male or female. Doesn't matter.
Good question. I would say yes from the beginning, but no in the end. Why I say so is, to introduce myself, like what Louis has said, I was quite fortunate to be in a company that is very, very gender balanced. Because Hang Seng Bank is actually one of the listed companies in Hong Kong that has the highest directorship, which was female. We have over 70% of our directorship who is the female board of directors. So actually in my bank's culture, we are deeply promoting the gender equality or the gender balance. So, but actually it's a very interesting topic as well, because when you are stressing this also means that it's not really balanced. But yeah, you do mean that. Because if you really stress that, we want to promote a female more, it somehow means some kind of the biasing. So I think this is a very important or very interesting transition on different people's mindset on how you really treat the male and female equally. I think this is something, the mindset that you have to turn it or to change it in the end. So I think even for our bank, this has been gone through like a long period of transitional period until today, that we have equal representation of many in many different positions, that male and female are actually the same. And I think echo what Bianca is saying is nowadays when we are working in our companies or in the finance industry, we tend not to really view who is male or who is female, but more depending on your performance, your capability, or your personal charisma. So I think this would be the ultimate goal that we want to achieve is, like to echo to your question, somehow gender matters, yes, but in the beginning, but I hopefully that it will be a no in the ultimate end. Yeah.
I hope so. As the Hong Kong Stock Exchange really has put out the mandate to have female on the board of listed company. So this is coming, as we know, but this is only addressing to the listed company. So is there something else we should do? Should we be actually enforce, inviting all companies to have that kind of balance? What do you think?
Like what Candy said, when this all started, I was quite against the concept of quotas. But then, because we are only at the start of the journey, actually we have come a long way. I think 3, 4, maybe 4, 5 years ago, Hong Kong fared very poorly in terms of the diversity on the board. We had about 12 to 13% about 5 years ago of directors on listed companies which are directors. But with the push and the encouragement of a lot of female leaders, as well as Hong Kong Stock Exchange as a change agent proposed this regime of mandatory disclosure or disclose or explain kind of policy, companies are being more focused, and that's a good first step. But as I was saying, I used to not believe in quotas. I actually think that the government and the stock exchange can explore putting a quota to push the companies to do even more. Because now it is true that they require female representation, but I think the general term is coined as a diversified board. So diversity is not just about gender. Diversity is also about age, about occupation, about just different backgrounds. So, but of course, I think it is clearly noted that for a board that is all male, even if they are of different age range or different occupation, it would not qualify as having set aside that requirement. So I actually would be so bold to suggest that the regulators think one step further to put a quota of, say, for example, or a target for listed companies to achieve in the next, say, 5 years. I think listed companies are already required to have a policy on the diversified board, but if the regulators or the government can do a bit more to kind of nudge them to the right direction, to go to 20% in the next 5 years, or even 30% in the next 10 years, that would be really good. And I think once this started, all the female leaders will come forward and participate even more at the board level.
I think it's definitely, in a way, board directorship is not a 5-year term. Normally, we're looking at 1 or 2 year maximum. So to push forward this kind of change, I think it's definitely can be much shorter and can be more aggressive, right? So perhaps we can actually take it another angle. I mean, with pandemic, we have seen a lot of us actually work from home. Typically, I think Hong Kong, we have been very, very privileged because most of us actually have stay-home help, or our parents actually stay with us to provide the extra help, unlike overseas that you don't have that kind of support. But on the other hand, working at home gives us a different perspective than when we worked before, that you don't really see what's happening at home. All the nitty-gritties, and you have to take care of administrative. And typically, these are what's been handled by women. And men have a taste of it. I'm sorry. That sounds very, very gender equality. I'm saying that, but it's true. I'm saying the majority. So what would we say? Certainly women as a women leader has a lot of different challenges other than the standard challenges man or general person who's working. What would you see is women's challenge and disadvantage?
Actually, I think as it's mostly the cultural, things, because the female must be prioritized. Their, family is a priority, the first priority, and then the career. So you're not going to be appreciated, if in Asia or in Japan, somewhere you pursue a career and just give up. So one thing I think for female want to pursue the career, the most efficient way is to be single. So I say that I'm not joking, that, I was in the headquarters for 5 years, and there's a small portion of females working at the manager level, but it's really middle level, but not really high senior level. But all of them are single. So, but we can see, in Asia, as more and more things change, because you can see more people, more females joining the workforce and become leader, or in some ways. But still, you have to aware that some, the other figures increase as well. For the unmarried female over 30 years old, the rate is increased as well. So in Japan, for example, in the 1980s, so the rate is 5%. So most people are married after 30 years old. And then after 20 years, in 2000, for example, the rate is 20%. So still okay, 20% okay. So after 20 years, in 2020, so the figure is 38%, 38.5. So the 40% of people is unmarried, over 30 years old, something like that. For me, I'm just so I don't know whether the rate, of the unmarried rate today, what exactly going to be in Hong Kong. I think much be better there. So I think that the very big challenge that we have to overcome it in some ways. We have to let the female feel comfortable, valuable in the company, and also get equal pay at the same time to create more positions and something. I have lots of ideas, but share later.
That could be another forum. To address your question, actually the Women's Foundation has done a research about the number of, what is the demographic of women that are actually not married after 40, 45 to 50. Surprisingly, take a guess. Anybody raise a hand. What do you think? How many percent of women are not married? Not married or divorced, just being single.
For Hong Kong.
For Hong Kong.
Based on what you said as well, 25%?
25%. Anybody else?
55.
30.
55.
55. It's about 30%. It's actually quite significant. A lot of them actually either it's difficult to manage or by choice, because it's much easier. So let us continue, Bianca.
Okay. Echo what Mabel said. I do agree that diversity is not only about gender, but it's also about age. To be honest with you, when I landed my job, my current role, I was 27, and all my colleagues are much older than I do. What I face the challenges, they think I'm the only female on the team, and so happen to be the boss as well too. And I face that they find female maybe softer and easier to push away. So they are getting very naughty, my team members. It's really hard to manage because I was new to the role, new to the company, new even to that industry. What do I do? So challenges, I think that's why I say don't differentiate myself as a male or female, but I do use tactics of male. I think that one big difference of male and female, the confidence gap. Usually have these other comments of males seeing themselves in the mirror, thinking that they are masculine and looking good, but female usually they are more for job application wise, they feel they have to meet 100% of the JD in order to apply, but now they think 60% I'll go ahead. So I take the male tactics apart. I think that the more I fail, the more I always achieve success. So I think I take failure as a lesson learned. And always people may say, oh, you're so successful, you're so good. I say, I just didn't tell you the side that I failed a lot, 1,000 times. I just didn't tell. And I don't think that it's necessary that helps. But in terms of working, so that's why I really like Swire, is that they're open about age, years of experience, or either gender. So I'm happy with that. So I encourage all of you to join us. And in terms of married part and working from home, I don't know, fortunate or unfortunate, we don't quite promote work from home, so it isn't having that problem back in Swire or in Alibaba as well too. but I do think that female kind of, it's kind of different in my part, because when all my colleagues are getting married with kids, which I'm not yet, but then my boss think that, oh, you might doesn't understand about how having a kid is, because so he thinks that female or male having kids will make them more generous. People without kids kind of like not that generous, a bit selfish, is that? Just thinking of the next generation. So I think that in terms of inclusion and diversity, we're doing quite well on that. Thank you.
So if talking about challenges, also a very funny transition to me is, I think beforehand, I do think there are not many distinguished challenges between a male and female before, not until I have my own kid. Okay. Because it's really a picture of the fact, honestly speaking, because of the biological structure difference, female really needs to encounter some of the challenges that the male would never need to experience. Yeah, after since giving birth. Because as a full-time working mom, when I was trying to carry up my baby, I can feel that I have to bear a lot of different kinds of the challenges physically during my pregnancy, and also the unavoidable long maternity leave that I have to give up my job from a certain period of time, and also all the different kinds of strange postnatal syndrome, which one of the killing factors to me is my memory is getting much worse than before, even though I try to eat a lot of DHA every day. So I think all these different kinds of the factors are inevitably that a woman may need to experience if you want to form your family or you want to have your baby. And so that's why I really have to say salute to the women, no matter single, married, or mothers, because I think these are a lot of different kinds of sacrifices or many important decisions that a woman has to be made throughout the career and also their lifelong time. So I think in terms of all these challenges, of course we cannot really blame my skills, right? Because it's our personal choice. But I would say if a woman wants to try to tackle these kinds of challenges, I think one of the key thing to me is a very good planning ahead of your life is quite important. If you want to maintain more balances or I would say success, in terms of your life or work, don't let a lot of different kinds of unexpected surprises on you, but well planned will be something that you can make yourself or make your life better. Another thing I think in terms of the company, if it's talking about the policy, I do think that very straightforward, some different kinds of the office policy or working policy can just really help the woman to try to maintain a work-life balance or to maintain both family and career. No matter flexibility working, even though it's quite a controversial topic, some is against, some really support that. But to me, I'm a fan of flexibility working. I also promote that to my team as well, because to me is as long as you can get your job done in a good way, I don't really care that where you are working or where you're working. And it would be even better if you can maintain your family and your career well at the same time. So this is also my message that I will convey to my team members. And also, of course, I think nowadays we are lucky that we are in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong has been quite supportive to different the gender equality or the female working environment. So I mean, even to the most simple thing, to build some nursery room or some of the female preferential facilities. I think all these little things can just help the female to work better. And I would have to say, sometimes female is quite an emotional animal. The more of the care and understanding you give to them, maybe they can contribute more to than you expected. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Candy. I think it's so well said. In the end of the day, for those who are in a relationship, and most of us are in a relationship, having family, woman is only half of the factor. A happy wife, happy life, and happy family. Right? So I think to take care of our female colleagues, our workforce is so important. China is trying very, very hard to increase the productivity, fertility. And so they try to do all these things, providing the support, kindergarten, they're considering to add some financial support as well. But it's a long way. Singapore is doing a very good job, and Hong Kong with such a low birth rate. and aging population, there's a lot of things we need to do. I think, personally, I would encourage an organization to look at it. It's not as a woman issue. A lot of, young mothers return to work, they don't find room to actually go to breastfeed and pump. And this is a challenge because it's not a woman's issue. It's a family issue. So I now wanted to bring it a little bit broader and say, what can society, I think Kenny just mentioned a little bit, I just want to go a little bit deeper. What can society and organization do to help young generation of female leaders to emerge as equal leaders without the baggage of putting the gender label on?
Well, Candy already mentioned the flexible working arrangement, which I also strongly agree. I think that actually liberates women to do more in the workplace. But I think we need to we need to kind of pull back and start all the way from the beginning. I think the education and the family, how we, the kind of values that we instill to our young daughters, including, needs to do a little bit of readjustment. Because there's a lot of stereotyping. Somehow girls, I'm a mother, I have a young daughter, mothers tend to buy dolls and tiaras for the girls, and then they would buy trucks and STEM cars for the boys, and that already make them kind of fix their mind that, oh, I'm going to be a princess when I grow up, and fashion is all I care about. I think that kind of stereotyping needs to be stopped. We need to avoid stereotyping. And likewise, again, Bianca was saying, as Asian women, even my own parents give a lot of pressure on me during my 20s and my 30s to get married. They encourage me to have an ambition, but they always say, yes, you can be ambitious, but don't be too ambitious. The man will get very threatened, and that's why you're still single. I got married very late, by the way. But this kind of message and education does not help to cultivate, future female leaders. And I encourage, all the audience who have children of their own to try to give it a more balanced kind of, give your children a more balanced view of what the world should be. Likewise, I recently signed up a summer camp for my daughter. It's a girls' camp, and the activities include cooking, table manners, and fashion design. I don't see STEM anywhere. And then I tried to look at the boys' camp. They have STEM activities. They have, water sports. So I think we need to, starting from the education side, we really need to kind of start rebalancing to make sure that, when they grow up, they would have a more kind of balanced view of what they can be.
Yes, I think there's two aspects I can say. Firstly, we have to have this environment, ecosystem to support women to grow up, to be a leader. If you don't have it, don't talk about equality or gender whatever, the bias or your ESG companies. It's impossible. So the thing is, for example, even in Japan, the very close society, they have decided to promote. The Abe Shinzo has promoted 3 minister female in his cabinet. That is a revolutionary or enlightenment in Japan mostly. We are so exciting about at the time. This is already some years ago. And now even for the Kishida, he's just trying to do something same, but just like a little bit power. But still he's trying to promote female by force the companies to declare, to release the gender wage difference, gender wage gap. Yeah. So that's a kind of proposal or something like the Hong Kong EX has done a good job, and to believe so. And to have this kind of awareness so that the people knows that is something really right, and the whole world is going to throw the same direction. At the same time, I think Mabel has spoken about the education. I think the females, the young women, we have to tell us we can live different. We dare to be different. So I think it's last time I saw the very popular Lee Young's speech at Harvard. This was stay loose, stay smart, and go with love, and go leap, and leap again, and leap again, something like that. But before you go leap, you have to go to, be loose. And this means that you go with the flow, you don't worry about, you just be yourself, and don't think about the people will affect you, or the society will give you the pressure or responsibilities. You have to make sure that you are yourself. Yeah, so that's what I think.
Self-awareness is the most important thing. Important element, not just for women, I think for every person. That if you are going to be successful, you gotta be attracting a lot of jealousy and challenges around the world. Unless you know what is your self-worth, you won't be able to, step out and do what you believe in. Actually, my next question, maybe we'll move on from this one. Next question is for Candy. Candy, being a lifelong banker, and you have been dedicating your career in Heng Seng, ecosystem. How do you continue to find it interesting? Keep it interested, in what you're doing.
Thanks for the question, because it's also the question that asked by my many friends who have been changing company for 10 times. Usually they ask me, how come you can stay in one company for so long without going bored with them? And usually my answer is thanks to my company that always keep me refreshed. Because even though I am staying with the same company for long, actually I changed to many different positions. I've been in commercial banking, I've been a front line before, I have also been in risk management, and then I also have been transferred to the retail banking, doing insurance product and strategy, and up to now I'm now in the total new areas and Hang Seng indexes. So I would say not a joke, but also a true thing is that to me I seems like changing job every few years. So if this company can offer me different kinds of opportunities for me to learn, to explore, and to cultivate, groom myself, why do I have to change to another company if that's the case? So I am lucky that I have different experience opportunities that I can gain within the same organization. So I also would also put the same things to hopefully to my teams or to my different subordinates as well, because I think career or work is a very, very long journey, especially the people, the longevity is going long. As you know, Hong Kong person is actually the longest longevity in the whole world. For male, average age of the death age is 83 years old, and for females around 87 years old. So definitely we need to work for a long time. So unless, of course, many people are very wealthy and you can have the early retirement after so as well. But if not, I think one of the key word is to keep myself refreshed and to try something new from time to time. That will be very important to keep myself energy. And the second thing I think is about a sense of achievement. I think this would be different from people to people, because my personality is that I may not be really care about the job or the nature that I'm doing, but to me the most important thing is I have the achievement, or I can get recognized for something that I have to do. So if I have found that this is something that I value the most, I will try to go for it. And understand what you care most in your career will also help you to further build on myself. So this would be my personal motto.
Thank you. So we've been talking a lot of very serious topic and question, but you know that all our female leaders really have a lot more aspect to it. So I wanted to ask, what do you do for fun, and that you feel that also make you a great leader because of the experience, or just for fun? Maybe Bianca, you can start.
Okay. I do enjoy my life a lot. I do a lot of fun things apart from my work. I sail a lot. I do sailing around the Hong Kong island for 8 hours for the race. I run full marathon every year. I love traveling around the world. I've been to 45 countries, 130 cities. Yes, I love to go into exotic places. So in Easter, I went to Ethiopia just to search for stones and animals. I love philanthropy. So I built solar panel systems for 40 villagers' homes in Rwanda, and built a library in Yunnan, and also a school in Cambodia with a water tank systems. So because I'm an engineering student, so the things. And for that's most for the sports, I play badminton every week. I do find that because work ultimately, I always think what I want to ultimately have a happy life. So work helps me to earn a lot of money. So it helps, so it can support my hobbies. I always think that there's three magic circles: do what I'm passionate in, what I'm good at, and what I'm willing to pay for. And that's a sweet spot which I'm looking for. And I think that doing what you're passionate about will perform the best among yourself. So that's, you can find me for spots. I always on that.
Thank you. Maki?
Well, this is a very difficult question. I'm not that fun person, so I just think what I like. Okay, I used to, I love horse riding, it's my passion, but Hong Kong is too hot for that. I'm so sorry to see that, horses swear that says, I don't ride here. But what I'm passionate about now is about, in September, is organizing committee of the Hong Kong Bio 2023. This is the first platform for biotechnology, industries in Hong Kong to exhibit, make an exhibition in whole years. The Hong Kong used to be the financial and real estate center, but now we try to make it as innovation and the biotechnology hub. So I'm very happy to join as the vice president of organizing committee to helping. So very busy. My life become very busy and with the volunteer work, but I love that. Yeah, this is my hobby right now. So sorry.
Please invite us.
Of course. I'm an even more boring person. So between my job, which is very demanding, trying to build and operate a startup bank, and being a mom, I have very little time left. But I'm very passionate about education, which I talk a little bit about. I volunteer at a local school. I'm one of their school advisors, and also volunteer at my alma mater on a mentorship program. I think that actually is something that I would strongly encourage all the distinguished female leaders here in the audience as well as on the panel to do, because I think girls need more role models. And they need to hear our personal stories, our challenges, and how we overcome them, and to recognize that everybody can be different. We don't have to fit into that model that our parents say, oh, you must get married and have children by the age of 35. I think we need to be bolder, and I hope that the little things that I do in my free time, just mentoring and volunteering at school, can help to push that a little bit further. Kathy?
For what to do for fun, I will try to do something completely different from my work. I don't want to encounter work anymore in my personal life. I personally is a music person. I love music a lot. I like to play the piano. I also like to sing. I used to join different singing contests before, but no longer now. So even though for now I cannot be really participating in different music events or activities because of family, work, etc. But I do hope to do it in Malaysia time, and now I may teach my son to play the piano together, so I can have like a synergy, and to achieve my personal interest, and then I can teach something to him to achieve two achievements. So that is something that I will do.
Thank you very much. As you can see, our panel are so lively, not just being a leader in a company, leader in society, but also they have a very full life. So right now, I'd like to open the floor and to invite you to ask some questions. Is there anyone? Yes. Maybe.
Get mentor in all these women initiatives. I've heard that 70% of the female in Heng are female. So is there any male initiatives in?
Very good question. Maggie asked, how can we get men involved in female issues? Bianca?
We do have monthly, we call it uncomfortable discussion by male allies. So originally I heard about the name male allies, is that even male initiatives, but indeed it's male to support female. So we're having this open discussions, it's called uncomfortable discussions monthly.
I like it. Uncomfortable. Talk it out. Men don't like to talk, is that right?
again, going back to the same theme that I've been kind of repeating, start them young. I mean, get the men to boys to understand that they also play a key role in raising a family. And it's not just a mother who has to supervise homework. Actually, my husband does a lot in supervising my daughter's homework, especially when I work late. And to make everyone understand that having more female at the workplace actually help not only the company grow, but the society as a whole also, will be able to grow in a much more sustainable way. So it's like getting the message out there and making sure that people, understand how a balanced leadership, how a balanced workforce will benefit everyone at large.
Excuse me, the lady from Mitsubishi mentioned that Hong Kong was more of a paradise than Japan. So what aspects are in the culture that make Hong Kong more of a paradise compared to Japan, do you think?
Let me repeat the question so everybody can hear it. So this question is addressed to Maki. So in Mitsubishi, Maki mentioned that Hong Kong is like a paradise compared to Japan. Yeah. And
what is in the culture?
Is it in the
makes
culture
difference?
that make it a paradise?
I think it's a very good question. It's something very essential. And in Asia, there's so many difference between Hong Kong and Japan. So Hong Kong is like for us, for Japan, it's like the Western. So you think it's Asia, right? You think Hong Kong is Asia or Western world? Asia.
Well, that leads me to my next question.
Yeah, that's good. Yes. And the thing is when I raised in Japan, so I know the situation in Japan. So I was raised in for example, university or in the workplace. You'll be trained with a very hierarchical structure. So if your senior come to the meetings, you cannot talk. The only top person talk. If you talk something, that's, you show out yourself or that's not good, you're going to be I think there's no one to say that, but the thing is you have to read the air. So that is the Japanese culture. But in Hong Kong, no one care about that. Read the air is what kind of air you can read it. So it's in Hong Kong, I think you have to appreciate the people, to participate in some ways. For example, that is some really, superficial aspect, but you can see the difference of that. At the same time, I think this social system is quite different between a man and woman. For our company, in 100 years or 145 years history, there's no female leaders up there at all. So you promote, but you need the time to promote the people for 10 years or 20 years. But in Hong Kong, it's quite different. You see a lot of female leaders already there. And China as well, even better than very close society in Japan. So it is cultural aspects for sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Becky. Yes.
May I ask a question? I think just now we talk about a lot like what institutions can do, what education can do, what society can do to really cultivate the inclusiveness, right? Especially on the gender issue. And I actually would like to know from me being a female myself, and then also other female panelists or employees, what they can themselves do, right? To really can get opportunity to become even a more important figure, contribute more. So I really would like to hear more. I think you're not they won't become a female leader, and you have worked a long way. Some of you work in a male-dominant company or industry. What has helped you yourself? What you yourself have done so that it helps you in this journey?
Very good question. Let me rephrase. So we just talked about what society institution can do to help women become a good leader. But the question is, what is the advice of women helping themselves? So I like to take this question in two parts. One is actually have our panel address it to it, and I like to invite the men on the floor to please comment, so you can have some time to prepare. So.
Well, for me, and a lot of male dominance industry, I think that education first is very important. So you well equip yourself with the skills, the technical abilities, skills. But then I think when the technical skills reach a certain top, a maximum, most important is to the communication with stakeholders. Is my stakeholders happy? stakeholders not only my top management, my peers, my teammates, my dotted line to other groups. There's a lot of stakeholders, and I do think that female have a good advantage on communications. But after all, I do think that the project's done, work we complete, it's similar by everyone. It used to be, but how you communicate it well and make your stakeholders accept it and they're happy, it's very important. And then I think that building up a network, a support network, a social network, which you can ask your career advice from, which people you trust, or you have a role model to look point to, following his footsteps and holding yourself to. And then also having an end goal in the mind, having a goal in the mind first, then you work your steps towards it. So what's the career aspiration? What's the limits you want to do? It's very important too. And I think that in terms to be a leader, it's not only good enough for having leaders in work, not only how you succeed in work, but also I do a lot of other organizations. For example, I sit in the board of directors of my alma mater. I serve as a fellow in CU Fintech Academy. I do think that sitting in professional bodies, it helps because like also joining events like this, you can have a lot of industry news, know a lot what's happening around. It's helped to boost to leadership as well too.
Very well said. May I take this question? So, I think I support what Bianca saying, diversify yourself. I think, with our career, what we do, we're a specialist. But with a broader network, we're not. So when we expose ourselves in different situations, different expertise, we need to, continue to learn and adapt ourselves and then to find our place so that, we become more confident. We will be a person instead of actually someone, a female. And, actually my first career, I was a chemist working for a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So in this kind of environment, it's very male dominated. And so coming from Hong Kong, I go to work in my laboratory, in my Ferragamo shoes, in my suits. And people ask me, are you crazy? You drop something, everything is going to be burned. I never thought about that. But to me, it's just natural. But one thing I actually do notice that, no matter what industry you work, with a lot of the men around me, men communicate differently. Women may be a very good communicator because we like to social, we talk about ourselves, our work, and everything. But men, they talk about what they do. Hey man, I did this deal, I've done that, I travel there, I do that. So I think we can actually looking at a much broader way to communicate ourselves, not, in a language that maybe more universal as well. So that I think men know how to communicate with us. So, anyone else before I open to the men? Okay. May I just see if any man would like to comment? Anyone like to give some comment how women can help to contribute? All right, we'll come back.
Yeah, I'll
thank you.
So I think it gets back to something that was said before, which is having that self-assuredness and not assumption that everybody else, not all men are the same. And just as you have to modulate talking to introverts or extroverts, people who are very sport-orientated or artistically orientated, if you don't have that confidence and be able to adjust how you're engaging and be interested in, the primitive male brain and how the primitive male brain operates, then you're not going to be able to communicate.
Thank you. I think that's very good. It's like almost talking about husbands. Okay. Yes, please.
Oh, hi. I'm Jinky. So my question is, I would like to ask for advice for a new startup because I don't really study business in my university as I study translation, so it's a totally different field. And I started up a business just out of courage, and I have passion in communication and closing deals. Since I wasn't.
Go ahead and start over again. Hi. I'm asking for an advice for a startup. I started a startup about a year ago. So for my university, I studied translation as my main, and which is nothing to do with business. I personally love communication, but however, I'm starting from zero. So I'm just asking for advice if I have to, do I have to have it? Because I started off with courage, and since my secondary school life, I've already been trading like razors or just anything else, like with some classmates. And this is how I started my thinking that I think everything is opportunity, including Uber and Foodpanda. So I started my startup, and I just want to hear some advice from everyone. Thank you.
I think I applaud the courage that you have to dive in and start a startup. It's no easy feat to do a startup. It's a lot of work. You will need to persevere. There are a lot of startups. Everyone thinks that they can have a startup. My own husband is starting a startup. He started 5 years ago and is still a startup. So it may take time. But I think as someone who also has some experience in the investing area, I think you need to, going back to what Bianca said, build your network. The network is not just for capital that you may need, but also for collaboration. Your startup may need to collaborate with other companies, and you need to have people with different skill sets, whether it's IT or communications, marketing, or even finance. So, make more friends. I think you are already doing that by sitting here today. Do the networking and be humble to ask for help. Women have this advantage. I think male tend to not want to ask for help. Women would be more feel easier to go and reach out to show their whatever they are not adequate on. So be humble and just don't be discouraged if you fail a couple of times. I think all of us sitting here have failed numerous times, but you get back up and do it again. And be ready to change course if it really is not going anywhere. Then you also need to have the wisdom to know when to kind of change course.
Perhaps to supplement a bit, I think it doesn't really matter what your academic background is, because I know many successful entrepreneurs or even the top bankers, actually many study archaeology or history or something like that. Totally not related to finance, but they're still very successful. Because I think one key thing is very important is they have an entrepreneurial mindset. I think this is something, the most important thing that the entrepreneurs can success, because even though that you are like a grade student in finance, but if you are very risk averse, you can never be an entrepreneur, I would say in this way. But I remember that when I chatted with one of the very senior bankers before about getting some new challenge or starting a new company, something like that, he gave me quite a good advice is get a good team of people. Because as an entrepreneur, you can be a very, very good general, emperor, but you can never learn everything. So what you need is just get a good bunch of people to help you, and you can master them, and just get them to do their specialized job and get what you need to do. And you are very clear about what your direction is, tell them to work for you and work with you. So yeah, this hoping that helps.
I wanted to ask.
Is it a good question?
Sure. Firstly, thank you. Really insightful. The fact that someone had as a non sequitur that, of course, there are more women in law, and that was a feminized industry is sort of fascinating. That sort of almost goes uncommented. My question is: there's so much hype at the moment around AI and what that may do. What's your view about how either feminized or general, your industries are going to be affected by that, and are you at an advantage?
I don't know if I got your question. How is AI going to be affecting the female?
Yeah. So female as leaders and managers and in industry, is it? How are you looking to use it and capitalise upon it?
Sounds like a IT question.
You're a volunteer.
Yes, we're looking deeply into AI and data. I would say AI will not replace human, not female, male, but AI will replace human that doesn't use technology. So master and utilize the skills of AI is very important. AI is more broad sense. We still have machine learning. We still have data. So data, big data is more a common term in terms. So we're looking into a lot of data potentials. For example, how to save costs or how to earn more top lines in terms of that. I do have a lot of projects to share if you're like interested in more. I've been a data scientist before. So.
I think that is a very, very good statement to close today. Thank you very much for all your questions and your support. And I wanted to address to the last question. If you see opportunity and opportunity and opportunity, you are already halfway there. So, applaud to our panelists, our successful female business leaders, and thank you, Gary, for inviting us to share.
Would you like you guys to take a photo together? Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.